Right, so I've seen my fair share of dodgy deals in the cannabis world, but this was something else entirely. Picture it. London, 2019. The green rush was on and everyone wanted a piece of the action. But then there was this bloke, let's call him Charlie. Smooth talker, sharp dresser, the kind of guy you'd trust with your grand's pension. Charlie had a plan. A plan so audacious, it makes Ocean's 11 look like a nursery school heist. He set up a legitimate-looking cannabis company, all above board, or so it seemed. The genius part: every single plant in his operation was fake, plastic, but nobody knew. He'd spray them with terpenes, to get that dank smell. Even had UV lights to make them look like they were growing. Investors were throwing millions at him, and Charlie, he was laughing all the way to the bank. But here's the kicker. When it all came crashing down, Charlie was long gone, vanished into thin air. It was the most genius cannabis scam I've ever seen, and trust me, I've seen a few. Scams are as old as ambition itself. The cannabis industry, once illegal, suddenly became a gold rush. Laws changed fast, money poured in, everyone wanted a piece. But with rapid growth came chaos. Regulations lagged, oversight was patchy. It was a wild west, a perfect playground for predators. Investors, hungry for quick riches, often skipped due diligence. The market was new, benchmarks few, and expertise rare. Eagerness led to mistakes. Details were missed. Scams flourished. Consumers too faced a confusing world of new products and brands. In this fertile ground, deception thrived, hidden in plain sight. The stage was set for one of the most audacious scams the industry would ever see. Amid the chaos, one scam rose above the rest. Bold, complex, and legendary. It wasn't a petty con, it was a masterwork, meticulously planned. Investors, regulators, even savvy insiders were fooled. The operation's reach was staggering, its impact devastating. It became the cautionary tale whispered at every industry event. The architects weren't seen as mere criminals, but as masterminds. This was the scam that set a new standard for fraud. Now we pull back the curtain on how it all unfolded. The mastermind? Elias Thorne. Not flashy, not notorious, just brilliant. He saw patterns in chaos, weaknesses in systems. His motivation wasn't greed, but the thrill of the intellectual challenge. Thorne's resentment after a career setback fueled his ambition. He wanted to prove the system was fragile, easily manipulated. Even in legitimate roles, he predicted market moves others missed. He was a loner, always refining his mental model of the world. The cannabis boom was his ultimate puzzle. Here, the seeds of his grand deception took root.
Check one, check two, check.
If Thorne was the mind, Julian Vance was the voice. Vance was charming, magnetic, a born salesman. He could sell anything, and people trusted him instantly. His background was a patchwork of sales gigs and near misses. The cannabis boom was his stage, and he played the visionary. Vance craved wealth and recognition, not the science. The thrill was in persuasion, convincing the smart and wealthy to invest. He networked fast, built a reputation, and drew crowds. But his stories were Thorne's scripts, spun to perfection. Together, they were unstoppable. Thorne and Vance's partnership was inevitable, brains and charisma united. They met online, drawn together by ambition and opportunity. Thorne needed a frontman, Vance needed a scheme. Their plan: create a web of fake companies, each with a unique cannabis innovation. Vance would lure investors, Thorne would handle the details and data. The trigger: a new, loosely defined government grant for cannabis R&D. Thorne saw a loophole, Vance saw a jackpot. They justified it as outsmarting a broken system. The thrill of building their empire was irresistible. Thorne's first move: build an empire of shell companies, each with a convincing role. Viridian Growth Labs, cutting-edge cannabis genetics. Canopy Tech Solutions, revolutionary extraction tech. Greenleaf Logistics, global distribution. Each had slick branding, fake growth charts, and fabricated staff profiles. Registered in secrecy-friendly jurisdictions, their digital footprint was flawless. Vance charmed early investors with promises of a cannabis revolution. Thorne exploited government grants, funneling money into the illusion. Funds went to props, brochures, websites, presentations. The companies looked real, but were hollow shells. Investors saw innovation, regulators saw legitimacy. In reality, it was all smoke and mirrors. Central to Thorne's plan was Cannabynth, a fictitious bioengineered cannabis strain. It supposedly produced synthacrol, a novel cannabinoid with unparalleled medical benefits and no psychoactive effects. Thorne fabricated research diagrams and a staged lab to support Cannabynth's development. Julian Vance, the chief evangelist, presented Cannabynth at investor meetings. He highlighted its potential to change lives and generate astronomical profits, inspiring unwavering belief. Vance painted a picture of Cannabynth as a global phenomenon. Elias Thorne knew perception is reality in high-stakes investment. An impeccable, fabricated paper trail was essential. He designed a system of fictitious transactions between shell companies. They used smaller companies' names and logos in investor pitches. Independent validation was key. He arranged fake testimonials. Endorsements in marketing materials reassured investors. Money from new investors flowed through shell companies. Early investors received handsome dividends, creating confidence. This Ponzi-like element was critical. Early investors became enthusiastic evangelists, sharing their good fortune. Thorne and Vance's scam aligned perfectly with the green rush, where enthusiasm overshadowed due diligence. The scheme's complexity was its defense. Its structure, involving international companies and fake research, deterred scrutiny. Julian Vance maintained the illusion of legitimacy. His charm deflected uncomfortable questions. This fostered loyalty and trust. The scam was a slow burn, designed to grow steadily. This avoided red flags. Early successes reinforced the narrative of a thriving business, lulling everyone into a false sense of security. The cannabis scam began with Julian Vance presenting to carefully selected, affluent individuals in exclusive settings. Vance, impeccably dressed, masterfully captivated his audience. His pitch for Cannabynth was persuasive storytelling, painting vivid pictures of cannabis's healing properties. He unveiled sleek brochures, impressive CGI animations, and fake testimonials. Scarcity was key. Investment opportunities were limited to strategic partners. Investors, mesmerized, eagerly signed, neglecting due diligence, sold a dream. Thorne ensured professional follow-up, cementing the illusion of a legitimate machine. Section 2. Manufacturing belief, the tangible facade of lies. With investment capital beginning to flow, Thorne and Vance meticulously worked to make their phantom enterprise appear undeniably real. Sophisticated websites were constantly updated with news. Carefully curated social media channels projected an image of bustling activity. To give Cannabynth a more tangible presence, they orchestrated carefully staged demonstrations and exclusive tours of their leased laboratory space. Instead, they focused on smaller, niche cannabis industry blogs, podcasts, or local business journals. By using new investment money to pay dividends to the first wave of backers, they created a powerful group of unwitting ambassadors. This generated a powerful sense of social proof and FOMO among a wider circle of potential victims. Section 3. Dancing on the razor's edge, evading suspicion. As the operation grew, so did the inevitable need to navigate scrutiny. Julian Vance became the primary firewall against any too probing questions. During investor meetings or follow-up calls, if someone ventured into territory that was too specific about the science or requested verifiable, independent data on Cannabynth, Vance had a repertoire of well-rehearsed deflections. He would speak passionately about protecting their highly sensitive intellectual property or the complexities of pending global patents. He exuded such confidence and conviction that he often managed to make the questioner feel as though they were being overly cautious, or perhaps not quite grasping the revolutionary nature of the enterprise. The intricate corporate structure, meticulously designed by Elias Thorne with its web of international shell companies, served as another formidable shield. When faced with requests for detailed financial audits or deeper operational insights, they could point to the complexities of their global structure. Information, they would claim, was siloed for security reasons, or subject to differing international reporting standards, making a consolidated, transparent overview temporarily challenging. This bureaucratic maze was often enough to deter all but the most determined investigator. especially when the superficial presentation remained so polished, and returns seemed to be flowing as promised to early backers. To further bolster their claims and reassure nervous investors, Thorne arranged for what appeared to be third-party validations. They would occasionally release summary reports from fictitious consultancy firms, praising the potential of Cannabynth. Sometimes they would even pay individuals with plausible-sounding credentials, perhaps a retired academic or a little-known industry consultant, a hefty fee to lend their name to a vague endorsement or to participate in a carefully scripted webinar. These experts rarely had any real access to the core operations, but provided a veneer of external approval that helped to quell doubts and maintain the flow of incoming investment. Maintaining the confidence of those already invested was a continuous, active process. Regular, glossy newsletters were distributed, filled with positive, though largely fabricated, updates on research progress, market penetration, and expansion plans. Vance made a point of personally calling key investors, thanking them for their continued belief and sharing exclusive snippets of good news. This proactive communication created a sense of partnership and transparency, even as the core of the operation remained entirely opaque. It was a delicate balancing act, constantly reinforcing belief while meticulously concealing the void at the center of their empire. Section 4. The Apex of Deceit. Riding the wave of stolen success. There came a period when the scam reached its zenith, a golden age of deception where everything Thorne and Vance had meticulously constructed seemed to function flawlessly. Money poured in from an ever-widening pool of investors, ranging from wealthy individuals to smaller, aspirational speculators, all captivated by the Cannabynth dream. The shell companies buzzed with fictitious activity, their bank accounts swelling. Office spaces, though largely for show, were maintained with an air of bustling productivity. For a time, it seemed as if their fabricated reality had indeed become real, at least in terms of financial inflow and outward appearances. Elias Thorne, the architect, remained firmly in the shadows, his satisfaction derived from the perfect execution of his intricate design. He meticulously managed the complex financial flows, ensuring enough new money was diverted to pay out the profits that kept the illusion alive and the investors happy. He monitored the digital presence, tweaked the narratives, and planned the next strategic moves to expand their reach. His days were spent in a state of high alertness, a grand chess master overseeing a game where the stakes were impossibly high. He likely felt a sense of intellectual triumph, having outsmarted so many. Julian Vance, in stark contrast, reveled in the public-facing success. He became a minor celebrity in certain investment circles, the charismatic visionary who was making people rich. He embraced the lifestyle, attending exclusive events, driving luxury cars, and cultivating an image of effortless wealth and brilliance. He was the living embodiment of the scam's success, his confidence now bolstered by tangible riches and the adoration of those he had fooled. The lines between the role he was playing and his own identity likely began to blur, as he became increasingly accustomed to the applause and the financial rewards. During this peak, an almost palpable aura of invincibility surrounded the operation. The early investors were singing their praises, new money was easy to attract, and any critical voices were drowned out by the chorus of success. The sheer momentum of the scam seemed to carry it forward, making it appear unstoppable. Yet even in this golden age, subtle pressures were likely building. The need to find ever larger sums of new investment to sustain the payouts was a constant, underlying stress. And for Thorne, the knowledge that the entire edifice was built on lies must have been a silent, ever-present companion, even as he watched his creation flourish. Even the most meticulously constructed illusions eventually encounter the harsh realities of the world. For Thorne and Vance's Cannabynth empire, the first signs of trouble were subtle. The pressure to find new investors began to take its toll. One investor, Sarah Jenkins, felt a growing unease. Her trained eye started to pick up on tiny inconsistencies. Around the same time, a young journalist stumbled upon the Cannabynth story. He began noticing the opaque ownership structures and the curious circular flow of proclaimed successes. These individual threads of doubt soon began to converge. The elaborate web was beginning to attract unwelcome expert attention. As investigators probed deeper, Cannabynth's edifice crumbled. The network of shell companies became a trail of evidence. Vast sums were siphoned off into private accounts controlled by Thorne and Vance. Julian Vance was apprehended at an awards gala. He was led away in handcuffs, shattering the illusion of his success. Faced with evidence, Vance agreed to cooperate, implicating Thorne. This betrayal was a devastating blow to Thorne's plans. Thorne was tracked down to a modest apartment. His capture was quiet, a stark contrast to Vance's downfall. The Cannabynth scam sent shockwaves globally. Thousands realized they were victims of an elaborate charade, sparking anger and disbelief. Legal proceedings led to Julian Vance and Elias Thorne receiving substantial prison sentences. Recovering stolen funds proved challenging, with only a fraction returned to victims, leading to life-altering financial losses. The scandal served as a painful reminder of vulnerabilities in the cannabis industry. Regulatory bodies tightened scrutiny, and investors learned the importance of skepticism. Cannabynth became a cautionary tale. The Cannabynth scam's success was rooted in human psychology. The green rush created excitement and possibility. FOMO drove hasty decisions as people saw others making fortunes. Rational caution was swamped, making grand promises seem plausible. Thorne and Vance dangled life-changing returns, designed to make eyes widen. Vance, a master storyteller, built trust and inspired faith. Confirmation bias, reinforced by early payouts, played a significant part. First dividend payments validated the investment, strengthening this bias. Early successes transformed investors into advocates, spreading the word. The Cannabynth scam exploited the cannabis industry's vulnerabilities during its early stages. The lack of benchmarks and public understanding created an informational vacuum. Thorne's complex scheme, with international shell companies and pseudo-scientific jargon, deterred scrutiny. The illusion of legitimacy was manufactured through sleek branding, fake research, and staged demonstrations. A slow-burn strategy and consistent dividend payouts fostered stability, lulling investors into a false sense of security. This allowed the scam to grow until the cracks began to show. The Cannabynth scam serves as a potent chapter in financial deception. Elias Thorne and Julian Vance wove an illusion so compelling it ensnared many. Even sophisticated ventures can be hollow at their core. Vigilance is an absolute necessity. What lessons can we learn from this tragic fraud? Deep, critical scrutiny is needed. Due diligence is a vital shield. Question, verify, especially claims that seem too good to be true. The lessons resonate across all areas of investment and trust. Constant awareness and critical thinking are demanded. Subscribe for more insightful explorations. Stay curious, stay vigilant.